Good evening, Cornwall. And what a wonderful turnout tonight. It proves that Cornwall really is at the forefront of Brexit. Ladies and gentlemen, we now know the date. We have 16 weeks to get our country back. The new Battle of Britain has begun. We have a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make Britain great again, and I believe we will. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to put the wrongs of 1975 right. We were hoodwinked in 1975. We were told it was simply about trade. People like Tony Benn and Enoch Powell, who went out and said that this was about a pooling of sovereignty or a loss of control, were painted as cranks, people who were on the edge of sanity. But we now know they were right. What people voted on in 75 was trade in reality. It was about a European Commission that makes the majority of our laws. It was about an EU flag, an EU anthem. It was about loss of control of our borders. It was about handing money over to an organisation that hasn't had its account signed off for 20 years on the run. Ladies and gentlemen, if people knew that in 1975, they would have voted to leave the economic community, just as we will vote to leave the European Union on June the 23rd this year. And what is this European Union that we're in today? Well, it's a European Union that makes the majority of our laws. And they don't begin in the European Parliament, where the democratically elected MEPs sit. No! They begin in a European Commission, about a mile up the road from the European Parliament, in a building called the Berlaymont Building, where 28 European commissioners meet in secret behind closed doors and hand down the legislation. This is not democracy, ladies and gentlemen. This is un-British. And ladies and gentlemen, we fought 2 world wars in the last century. We sent our brave boys over the trenches at the Somme, up into the skies of southern England during the Battle of Britain to protect Britain's freedom, democracy and sovereignty. And shame on those politicians in the latter half of the last century who gave away something that was never theirs to give. They gave away our sovereignty, ladies and gentlemen, and we will take it back. It is a European Union whereby we have to sign up to freedom of movement of people. Now, forget what Cameron has put in the renegotiation about child benefits and in-work benefits. It's a smokescreen. It doesn't matter. The simple fact is that last year alone, 338,000 people net came to this country. That is a city the size of Nottingham. That is driving down wages in working class communities. It is putting working class people out of work altogether. And what I believe is that it would be better if we left the European Union and had an Australian points-based system where we have the ability to say who we want and who we don't want to come to our country. But it is as bad for the EU as it is for us. Eastern European states are failing as a result of depopulation. The Baltic is depopulating faster than anywhere else on the planet. It's amazingly, we pay them for this. They don't pay us. We are handing over £55 million every single day in membership fees, and yet they give us around half back. And then if you go into any medium town or city in this country, you will see signs up everywhere saying, "Thank the EU, this project was built with European money." Ladies and gentlemen, there is no such thing as European money. It's your taxation. It's your taxation. It goes to Brussels, they give us half back, and we're expected to say thank you very much. And where is the other half going? Well, it's building motorways in Romania. It's building an underground system in Warsaw. It's building a sewage system in Budapest. I believe the British people want that taxation, our taxation, spent in our country, on our own people, on our schools, on our hospitals, and ensuring that our boys and girls in the armed forces have the best equipment possible. Charity begins at home. And you will hear lots of myths and scare stories during this referendum. Only last week, Mr. Cameron said that if we left the European Union, then the jungle in Calais would move to Folkestone. Mr. Cameron, we are an island, and we can protect our own borders if we have the willpower to do so, and by God, we in this room have that willpower. The leader of the Liberal Democrats, Tim Farron, said that the NHS would collapse if we left the European Union, and almost everyone is saying, wouldn't it be terrible if we left the EU? We'd end up like Norway. Well, Norway is the richest country per capita in Europe. It must be terrible to be Norwegian. But we have similarities with Norway. We have oil, we have fish. The only difference is they're allowed to fish in their fishing areas where we have to share it with the rest of the EU. But there are differences. Norway has a population of 5 million. We have a population of 65. Norway does the majority of its trade with the European Union. We do the majority of our trade with the rest of the world. We are the 5th largest economy on the planet, and we are Britain. Actually, no, we are Great Britain. Great Britain with links all over the world to the Anglosphere. And there's another organisation out there, ladies and gentlemen, that we turned our back on in the 1970s. If we left the EU, we could reignite our links with our kith and our kin in the Commonwealth. And what are we being asked to vote on in this referendum? Well, let me make one thing clear. We're not just being asked to vote on the European Union as it is today. We're being asked to vote on the European Union, what it will be like in the future. And let me tell you this, there will be an EU army, something we cannot have part of. Turkey will join the European Union eventually. 75 million Turks, a country where only 3% of it is actually in Europe, a country which borders with Iran, Iraq and Syria. Ladies and gentlemen, Turkey has no place in any European Union. And Cameron can talk about child benefits and in-work benefits and protection for countries outside the Eurozone. But that doesn't matter. What matters is what was not in the renegotiation. He didn't try to renegotiate the common fisheries policy, which is half the British fleet since the 1970s. He didn't try and rip up the common agricultural policy that puts up the price of food for every single household in this country. He did not try to renegotiate ourselves out of freedom of movement of people. He didn't try to reduce the membership fee, which continues to go up and up and up. He didn't try to return any laws from Brussels to our shores. What this is about, ladies and gentlemen, is simply about democracy. We want the people who make our laws to be those we elect at Westminster. Because if you don't like what they do and you don't agree with their legislation, you can kick them out after 5 years. You cannot remove European commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, and that is simply not the British way. We must say to Mr Cameron, it is not good enough, Prime Minister. We will not be fooled again. Ladies and gentlemen, this referendum is as much about how you feel in your heart as it is about the arguments and the debates that you will hear in the next couple of weeks. It's about how you feel when you wake up of a morning and look at yourself in the mirror. It's about whether you feel Britain. It's about whether you think we're strong enough, big enough to go it alone. As Nigel Farage says, it's about whether you think we're good enough. And I genuinely believe that this country, with its links all over the planet, to the Anglosphere, to the Commonwealth, fifth largest economy in the world, we will not only survive outside the European Union, we will prosper and we will go from strength to strength. We have an opportunity to create a Britain that we can be proud of for our children, a Britain that we can hand on to our children and grandchildren in the 21st century. If we do that, ladies and gentlemen, they will thank us forever. A Britain free, rich, democratic. If we get this right, if we campaign hard, if we go out, if we leaflet, if we hold street stalls, if we write letters and talk to our friends, we can make sure that June the 23rd this year is Independence Day. Let's make Britain great once again. Thank you.